And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. Since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. So, the power of the sower explained. Verse 18. Jesus tells them, hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. So the first group are the people that are just completely disinterested, couldn't care less. They think all this Jesus stuff is nonsense, don't want to be bothered with Christianity, it's a complete waste of time, and that message never even begins to penetrate their heart in any way. You just have to shut it down, start over. You can't. Verse 20. And what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the world, immediately he falls away. So I see this a lot. Shallow people are usually the ones who embrace the gospel most enthusiastically. But their relationship isn't real. It's not deeply rooted. They like this idea of Jesus, but they don't totally give themselves over to him. Therefore, when troubles arise, they can't rely on him because they don't have a true relationship with him. So they fall away. Now, this was very common. Good job. In the very beginning of the church, persecution separated who the true Christians were and who the true Christians weren't. The real Christians are the ones that went to be devoured by lions, to be burned alive, crucified, all for the Savior. The ones who professed to be Christians, when they were confronted with it, they sacrificed idols and just praised Caesar and did whatever was required just to get along, go along to get along. So I hope we've already squashed this whole once saved, always saved idea that you can live however you want once you make a profession of faith and you will still go to heaven. Jesus says, he described them as those who hear the word and immediately receive it with joy, yet they have no root in himself and fails to endure. So I don't understand why these once saved, always saved people, and they fight with me all the time just for quoting Jesus, his direct words, not mine. The one who endures to the end will be saved. So it should be clear just from that one parable, Jesus gives us another one. And this, because we don't experience persecution in America, I would think this next one with the thorns really describes the largest group of apostates in our culture. So we have verse 22. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. This is the one I fear the most, because it's the one that almost choked me out. Now, no one likes persecution, but there's certain personalities that when they're pushed, they tend to push back. That's the one I have, so persecution really tends to strengthen my faith, and in history, it's strengthened the church. We see that throughout history. We see it globally today in areas where there is persecution. And I know I'm closest to God when the world's against me. I kind of agree with Ravi Zacharias. He says the greatest threat to the church isn't this problem of pain. It's not this idea that there's suffering in the world. But the issue that most threatens the American church is the problem of pleasure. We just have too much going on. When things are going really well for me, or when I'm preoccupied with my career and things I have to do in my life, these things that really are temporal and don't matter, or if I'm really enjoying stuff, that's when I tend to drift. The more I indulge my flesh, the more I tend to forget about the Spirit. So I would probably fall into this group here. The last group he describes seem to be the only group that are true Christians. Verse 23, as for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. So we see it's okay that there's varying degrees. Like not everyone's going to run and be a minister. Not everyone's going to have the faith to go over and preach in China or India or stuff like that. We're all different levels. He accepts that. But according to Christ, if you hear and understand the word, you will indeed bear fruit. If you aren't bearing fruit, you belong to groups 1 through 3. If you belong to groups 1 through 3, you might superficially act like a Christian, you might look like a Christian, but on the last day, you will hear the terrifying words that no one wants to hear. Jesus says, I never knew you. Depart from me, you worker of lawlessness.